This is Arlene Blum of the Green Science Policy Institute, and I would like to welcome you to the 6 Classes webinar series. Over the next 8 weeks, we'll learn the chemistry of 6 chemical classes or families that contain a majority of the harmful chemicals commonly found in consumer products. By reducing the use of these 6 classes, we can also reduce their harmful long-term health effects, which include neurological and reproductive impairments, hormonal and immune problems, and cancer. I first became concerned about harmful chemicals in consumer products back in the 70s when I learned that a chemical called brominated tris was in children's pajamas and was 10% of the weight of the fabric. Could the tris be harming the children wearing the flame-retardant pajamas? We found that when children were wearing these pajamas, we could measure the chemical breakdown products in their urine the very first morning we tested for them. Then we tested tris itself and learned that it changed DNA. That means it's a mutagen and was likely to cause cancer. So, being scientists, we wrote a scientific research paper stating that the main flame retardant in children's pajamas could be cancer-causing and should not be used. Tris was removed from children's pajamas only 3 months later. Some of you may remember that, although it was 40 years ago. When a chemical is banned, though, the tendency is to substitute as similar a chemical as possible. So when brominated tris was banned, guess what the substitute was? Chlorinated tris. That was also found to change DNA and be a likely mutagen and carcinogen. So chlorinated tris was also removed from children's pajamas. This is unfortunately a common pattern. When a chemical is banned, the replacement chemical may be similar and similarly problematic. The movement from one harmful chemical to a chemical cousin with similar properties has been called toxic whack-a-mole. So last summer, 25 leaders in the science, business, and nonprofit community came together for 4 days to develop innovative new solutions to reduce the use of harmful chemicals in everyday products. We identified 6 classes of chemicals that contain a large proportion of known harmful chemicals that are used at high levels in our products and are not yet adequately regulated. And for each of these 6 classes, there were hundreds or thousands of scientific papers showing harm to animals and sometimes to humans. Many of these chemicals are volatile or semi-volatile, so they migrate continuously from products into dust and air and end up in humans, animals, and the environment. Many are endocrine disruptors associated with long-term health harm. We didn't study or include chemicals in foods, drugs, and pesticides because all these sorts of chemicals are regulated, at least to some extent. Now, instead of worrying about 80,000 untested chemicals, we can focus on 6 classes responsible for much of the harm. If you go to slide 2, you'll see the periodic table of the elements. On the right, there's a blue circle around a class of chemicals called halogens. You can see fluorine on the top, F, bromine in the center, B, and chlorine above bromine, Cl. That means that these chemicals have strong bonds between carbon and the halogens, and indeed among the strongest bonds in nature. Such bonds are not broken easily by bacteria or by our metabolism. Therefore, molecules with halogen-carbon bonds stay in our bodies or in the environment for a very long time. On slide number 3, we see the first 3 classes, again, the halogens. The first class is fluorinated stain and water repellents like Scotchgard and Gore-Tex. The second is chlorinated antimicrobials like triclosan and triclocarban. Third, the flame retardants, brominated, chlorinated, and phosphate. These chemicals are toxic. They're often fat-loving or lipophilic and resistant to breaking down. Indeed, there are only 22 chemicals that have been globally banned as persistent organic pollutants by the 150 countries who've signed the Stockholm Convention. All are organohalogens in these 3 classes. Molecules with carbon bonded to chlorine, fluorine, and bromine are not naturally found in any mammals, so our biological systems don't recognize them. They tend to enter our bodies and stay for a very long time. On slide 4, you can see the other 3 classes: endocrine-disrupting plasticizers like the bisphenols and the phthalates, some solvents like benzene, methylene chloride, xylene, and some heavy metals, lead, mercury, chromium, cadmium, and arsenic. And the good news is we've known for a long time about the harm from these 6 classes of chemicals, and their use is indeed going down. In this series, after the 6 lectures on the 6 classes, we'll have a 7th lecture, Do We Need It?, asking, do we really need to use these chemicals given their potential for harm? If a mom whose baby is crawling on a stain-repellent treated carpet knew that harmful chemicals could end up in her baby and stay a long time, would she choose to have her carpet stain-repellent treated? Is it worth it? Our final lecture will discuss green chemistry. If we decide we do need a function such as stain repellency, let's have a commitment to green chemistry solutions. It's time to put resources and energy into finding substitutes through green chemistry to reduce harm. So in these 8 short webinars, we will learn about 6 harmful chemical classes in everyday products. Then we can make purchasing decisions to reduce their use and have a healthier world. I want to end by saying, as a chemist, I love learning about the order and beauty of molecules and sharing that with others. I believe that most chemicals do make our world a better place. However, there's some bad actors harming our health. Many of these with high levels of human exposure are in the 6 classes. We can reduce their use and be healthier. So let's begin now.